So there you have it. We've talked about the close family of chords. We've talked about the extended family of chords. We just finished talking about the altered family of chords. There's one more family of chords we're going to talk about, and that's the borrowed chords. Now, if you think about it in terms of circles, the close family, the extended family, the altered chords, this is the widest of the circles. Basically, a borrowed chord is a chord that comes from a completely different family. In other words, you could be in C major, and you might be pulling an A-flat chord out of the key of A-flat, which is totally unrelated to C major. Let me show you some examples in some modern worship songs that you would know. For instance, we talked about the song He Reigns. Let's do it in the key of C, just so you can see. Not a great key to sing that song in, but all God's people singing glory, glory. Now that B-flat chord is not in the key of C. That's why you're seeing black keys, because in the key of C, it's all white keys. So this B-flat, you can look at it three different ways. It's a borrowed chord. You could say it's borrowed from the key of B-flat. You could say it's there because we're in the Mixolydian mode. Maybe we're not in pure C major. Maybe we got that from the Mixolydian mode. You could say it's borrowed from the blues scale. The point is not really naming it correctly. It's three different names for the same thing, but it's the sense that it's borrowed from another destination. Here's another good example from Hillsong. This is Shout to the Lord by Darlene Zschech. In the verse of her song, the wonders of His might. There's that B-flat chord again. It's a borrowed chord. His mighty. So again, that the triad built on the flat 7, that's a pretty common borrowed chord. Here's a couple of other examples of borrowed chords, good ones from Israel Houghton. In the song Lord You Are Good, there's a couple of other borrowed chords that you need to know about. Let's move to the key of E for a second. E is the key that you normally do this song in. Now, if you think of the bridge of that song, you've got a borrowed chord that's built on the flat 3rd degree. Okay? You're in the key of E, so the 3rd degree is normally a G sharp, right? Now here's what the bridge sounds like. Does it sound familiar? So there's the 1 chord. Instead of the 3 chord being built on G sharp, it's built on G natural. Right? It's that same kind of smoke on the water move. So that's borrowed. You could say it's borrowed from E minor, you could say it's borrowed from the key of G, but basically it's a chord that doesn't exist in E major. It's just used for that impact. Think in that same song a little bit later. We worship You for who You are. Now we're in the key of E, right? But we've got a C triad, which goes to a D triad, which then goes to the E. Those are all borrowed chords. Probably the simplest way to think about that, those are borrowed from E minor. Here's E minor, which has a C natural and a D natural, but then we're obviously pretty solidly in E major. We worship You for who You are. So, let's go back to the key of C now. If you think about the borrowed chords we just talked about, look where they are. You've got the flat 7, you've got the flat 3, and the flat 6. Well, those are actually the 3 tones that change C major to C minor, right? Think about that. It's the flat 3rd. Here's C major. If you were going to change it to C minor, you would change the E to an E flat. There's that one. You'd change the A to an A flat. There's that one. You'd change the B to a B flat. So those are 3 of the most common borrowed chords. The flatted 3rd, the flatted 6th, and the flatted 7th. Now, if you want to just quote a great theory term to impress your friends, these are called chromatic mediants. Basically, it's just another name for, if you want to look at where that come from, if you're thinking tonic, supertonic, this is the mediant. So a chromatic mediant alteration is Same way for this is the submediant, so altering this, that's called chromatic mediant alterations. Those are the most common borrowed chords you run into. You hear those a lot in rock, in funk, and especially in gospel music, sometimes in jazz. But those borrowed chords definitely are, the simplest way to think of them is they're just chords that don't belong to the family at all, but you bring them in just to add extra spice to the music.